England, June 1381. It was a bright day when the peasants reached the walls of London. They numbered thousands, carrying torches, clubs, and some with swords stolen from village garrisons. This was not just a riot, it was a true popular revolt, the likes of which England had never known before. Wat Tyler led the march from the front, his eyes fixed on the great city that was about to fall to the poor and dispossessed. He was not alone. Other leaders were present, such as John Bull, the radical monk who cried out to the crowd, "Why do some live in palaces while others die in the fields? Are we not all created equal?" When the peasants reached the gates of London, the poor inside the city opened the doors for them. They saw in these crowds a salvation from the tyrannical nobility, who grew rich while the people starved. Once inside, the anger turned into a hurricane of chaos. The rebels attacked the palace of John of Gaunt, the king's uncle, and burned it to the ground. They then marched to the Tower of London, where Simon Sudbury, the Archbishop of Canterbury, was hiding. They forcibly removed him and dragged him to the middle of the street, where Wat Tyler watched silently. Someone shouted, "This is the man who signed the unjust tax laws." In moments, swords and axes rained down on the bishop's head, and his blood splattered on the cobblestones of London. King Richard II was only 14 years old, but he was smarter than the peasants expected. He lacked a strong army to repel the rebellion, so he decided to deceive them. He sent a messenger to Wat Tyler asking for negotiations at Smithfield. Wat Tyler believed the moment had come to achieve the rebellion's goals, so he set out with a few of his men. When he arrived, he dismounted, walked toward the king, and said confidently, "We don't want anarchy, but we demand freedom, abolish feudal serfdom, reduce taxes, and let the people choose their fate." The king seemed to listen, but before he could speak, William Walworth, Lord Mayor of London, stepped forward and stabbed Wat Tyler in the neck with a poisoned dagger. The rebel leader stumbled back, then fell to the ground, his blood streaming onto the stones of Smithfield. Some peasants tried to intervene, but the king's soldiers surrounded the area. At that moment, the king demonstrated his political acumen. He shouted to the crowd, "Go home, and I will grant you whatever you ask." After the death of Wat Tyler, they had no leader, and they had no plan. They began to retreat, and with that, the rebellion ended. Days later, the king launched a bloody campaign of revenge, with the leaders of the rebellion being arrested and publicly executed. John Bull died crying out, "You may kill us today, but one day the poor will break their chains." Although the revolution failed militarily, it planted the seeds of change. Years later, feudal slavery gradually began to disappear, and people became more aware of their rights. Wat Tyler died, but he remained immortal in history books as a voice for freedom that remained unsilenced despite betrayal.